Hello and welcome back. I am Tim Willoughby here with Ian Duke, and we are ready to go down to the feature match area for the last round of the first Seal pool play here on day 2 at the World Magic Cup. Let's go down and see whether or not it's going to be Sweden or if it's going to be New Zealand that advance to the next pool of play. Hello and welcome to this elimination match between, on the left of our screen we can see Team Sweden. There we see Pro Tour winner Joel Larsson, looking pretty chilled right now, but this is a tense moment for him and his team. They're up against New Zealand. Gene Brumby there just getting ready to battle here against the Pro Tour winner. Each of these teams is currently in a position where this win means that they get to go on to play in the next pool of play, and that means Team Constructed. Right now it's Team Sealed though, and Gene Brumby leading it off with a sandstone bridge. On the face of these things, both of these decks look like mono-white decks. What we actually know is that one of them truly is, while we've got a green-white ramp deck from Joel Larsson from Sweden on the left of our screen, Gene Brumby, I saw him during deck construction, he said, "I've been playing white all tournament, but never quite as much as this deck. Absolutely no non-white cards, not even artifacts in this deck. He is just straightforward, white, aggressive creatures up against a green-white deck from Joel Larsson that it's got some fairly substantial ramp and some nice payoffs at the end there, Ian Duke."
Yeah, that's right. Definitely looks like Gene Brumby is the aggressive deck in this matchup. As you can see in his hand there, he's playing Inspired Charge, which definitely indicates that he wants to go wide with creatures and try to finish the game swiftly through combat. Joel Larsson, on the other hand, with a more ramp-style deck, he's got some powerful top end here. A little bit of Converge there, as you can see with Tajuru Stalwart, only coming down as a 2/3, but still trying to assemble a defense against this white-based aggressive deck on the opposite side of the table. Unfortunately for him, at this point, Gene Brumby's offense is in the form of 2 flyers with Courier Griffin and Shadow Glider. Another Courier Griffin coming down here soon. So Joel Larsson looking for some way to answer these flyers.
Now, Joel Larsson has made some interesting choices with his green-white deck. He's ultimately looking to get to the late game, and one of the ways that he's doing that is by flooding the board with blockers. We see there an Eyeless Watcher bringing along 2 Eldrazi Spawn tokens. One nice choice that he's made for his deck, he's got a couple of Giant Mantis in the main deck. Now, Giant Mantis, a pretty solid card anyway. It was good in Mirage, it's good now. But in this format, where it's Team Sealed, you know that Blue-White Flyers is one of the big decks. A lovely metagame call to keep it in the main deck, run the sideboard.
Definitely agree. Unfortunately for Joel Larsson, no Giant Mantis making an appearance just yet. And it looks like Gene Brumby here with 6 points of flying in the air and an Inspired Charge in his hand. This game could be over as soon as next turn.
Super aggressive start for Gene Brumby here. At this point, he's garnered a reasonable amount of information about what Joel Larsson's playing, but I'm sure he won't mind going in a little blind for sideboarding if it means that he gets to win real quick.
Oh, but a huge pickup here for Joel Larsson. Those 2 Eldrazi Scion allowing him to cast Angel of Renewal, gaining 4 life here, and that'll allow Joel Larsson to present a blocker against these flying attackers.
Yeah, the life gain critical there, because even if it was just a 4/4 flyer, that wouldn't be enough in the face of Inspired Charge. As it is, though, 3 2-power attackers coming in. Some are going to get pumped, but that's not necessarily going to be enough to actually end this game, though it will mean that that Angel can't hang around for too terribly long.
And we do see Stasis Snare here from Gene Brumby taking out that Angel, allowing these creatures to get in for another 7 damage, dropping Joel Larsson down to 5 life. And with Inspired Charge in Gene Brumby's hand, Joel Larsson is going to be hard-pressed to put together a defense against this flying set of attackers here.
And Joel Larsson quick to scoop them up. Game 1 goes to New Zealand. Gene Brumby calmly scooping up his cards. Just one more for him to concern himself with. But this is not a team game. It's not just about the one match. We will be bringing you back some more Magic very shortly. But first, these messages.
Take the oath and retake the world in the newest Magic the Gathering set, Oath of the Gatewatch. Play in pre-release events at your local game store on January 16th and 17th, and on Magic Online starting January 29th. Visit locator.wizards.com to find a store near you. Watch the best players in the world battle on Magic's biggest stage. Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch starts February 5th in Atlanta, Georgia, featuring Modern and Oath of the Gatewatch booster draft. Watch all 3 days streamed live on twitch.tv/magic.
Hello and welcome back to our match here between Sweden and New Zealand here at the World Magic Cup, this elimination match for the first pool of the second day here. And we're going to get a chance to see one of our other matches, having seen Gene Brumby dispatch Joel Larsson in short order. On the left of our screen here, we've got Philip Sand. He's playing a very strong-looking red-blue deck in the red-blue mirror up against Danny Lau, and we can see here already Nettle Drone going on for Philip Sand here, and that meaning that even if the board gets a little bit clogged up, which there's the potential to happen here, he is going to have a consistent sort of source of damage. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, there's a different kind of consistent damage on the other side of things coming through for Danny Lau. We have one of those benthic infiltrators there.
Yeah, red-blue, an exceedingly popular combination here this weekend. With the depth of a team sealed pool, you're able to put together these very, very strong, nearly mono devoid decks, and taking advantage of cards like Nettle Drone or even Molten Nursery in many cases here. So not too surprising to see these two players facing off in a near mirror match here as far as their strategies are concerned.
Now, I've just heard an update that Jason Chung, the team captain for New Zealand, is already up a game in his match as well. He's playing against Anton Johansson over on our third table in this matchup. Now, to me, one of the most exciting things about the mono-white deck that we saw in the last game is what happens in a team-sealed situation when one of your players is only taking cards from one color. You've got two whole colors per player that do not need to be split if you don't want to. Very powerful stuff potentially here from New Zealand. As it is, though, Philip Sand here getting a little bit of damage in where he can with Nettle Drone. He's been able to pump it just a little bit here with his land there. So potentially some attacks coming through here. And a Clutch of Currents on Vestige of Emrakul. That the best blocker that Sand really had. He's not necessarily going to want to do too much of that with Cloud Manta.
And Philip Sand with a pretty powerful tempo-oriented hand here. He does have another copy of, or he does have a copy of Adverse Conditions in his hand, which will allow him to set up a pretty nice set of attacks over the next couple turns here.
I mean, he's even in a position where Outnumber is aptly named. He's going to be able to use it to kill off most things with the amount of creatures that he has on the board.
So a huge hit here. Looks like a total of 7 damage from those two unblocked creatures.
And that's exactly what Sweden needs. Already a game down in both of their other matches. They really don't want to have to go into their assorted game twos thinking, well, any of us losing here puts us in a really, really tough situation because this is an elimination match. Only one of these teams is going to be able to be playing any more Magic this weekend.
And Danny Lau with a tough turn ahead of him here presents a Vestige of Emrakul, but Philip Sand, as we know, has Outnumber and Adverse Conditions to take care of all 3 of those blockers here. So unless Danny Lau has maybe an Outnumber himself, and I'm not even sure that would do the trick here, this could be the final turn of the game.
Yeah, and Philip Sand, he did know that there was a potential for that Vestige to come down. In some respects, the play that he expected is a nice safe one. If there had been something else came after that Clutch of Currents, then he might have had to reevaluate slightly more. This playing right into the Swedes' hands here. Gets the cheeky points in because Adverse Conditions has no color. It is devoid, so it will allow the Nettle Drone to untap. And just a huge, huge tempo play every time you cast Adverse Conditions. Great on defense, fantastic on offense. An absolute winner. So just lining up attacks here, figuring out exactly how this is going to go.
Yeah, and I think Philip Sand just deciding whether he needs to show the Outnumber or not. Looks like he's going for an attack where he doesn't think he needs to show it.
Yeah, certainly a valid consideration, and we wouldn't necessarily see the same line in game 2 or 3 when you're already a game up. Yeah, at that point, you just kind of want to end things. But as it stands, that enough to give Philip Sand the first points on the board in this best of 3 matches between Team New Zealand and Team Sweden. So names falling thick and fast in this. I mean, it feels to me like there are plenty of situations where normally you wouldn't have any games completed yet, but as it is, we're going to get a chance to see the start of Game 2 here between Gene Brumby and Joel Larson. They've just finished shuffling up, so we're going to get a chance to see whether or not Brumby's aggressive white deck has changed its plan at all. He does have the option of trying to go a little bit slower and more defensive. To be honest, based on how it went in Game 1, I'd be inclined to try and do the exact same thing again.
Yeah, this time around, though, Joel Larson is on the play. Looks like he has a slightly better mana draw here. Well, he'll be able to hit 3, 4, 5 mana on time this time. I think a large part of his problem in the last game was that he stumbled on 2 mana and wasn't really able to answer Brumby's flyers. But hopefully things go a little bit better for Joel Larson this game from his point of view.
He is also aided by the fact that Brumby has mulligan to 6 for this game, so he's having to work with slightly fewer cards, and for aggressive decks that can hurt a little bit more than even for the control ones. Just Core Blade Whirl thus far. And there's already a creature there to block it, and I think that this is a trade that Joel Larson would make. While there are certainly occasions where it's tempting to use your landfall creatures to get in plenty of damage, we know that Joel Larson has late game that is not necessarily something that Gene Brumby's deck's all about. But there's the ally to give Core Blade Whirl first strike. That makes blocking a less enticing proposition. Double Blade Whirl. Double first strike is not double strike for those of you watching at home, but it's still pretty good. And so we do instead see the landfall trigger there. And there's the Giant Mantis. Giant Mantis as a 2/4, just the perfect size to deal with all of the threats of Gene Brumby that have come down thus far. May well force a stasis stare from Brumby, and yeah, no big surprises there, just the step to punch through a little bit of extra damage. Just pointing out the vigilance, yeah. If you're going to use the land, you might as well use all of the abilities on it. And in spite of everything that he's done thus far, Joel Larson's still just taking massive hits in this game. Yeah, the Sandstone Bridge there. Apologies on the name there. But yeah, +1/+1 and Vigilance. Gene Brumby using all pieces of that ultimately to get through a bit of extra damage. But a 3/3 flying Ghostly Sentinel, certainly not the worst in terms of blocking. He's just going to have to desperately hope that there are not more allies coming from Brumby. We can see there a sheer drop in Brumby's hand. That a pretty terrible answer to a Ghostly Sentinel, but Shadow Glider and Courier Griffin slightly better there, just at least in terms of blocking it if he so chooses.
It looks like this Ghostly Sentinel has successfully matched up just right against Gene Brumby's threats. 3/3 against a pair of 2/2s and a 2/3 does hold the fort for Joel Larson. I think Joel probably happy not to see another Inspired Charge or something along those lines to pump up Gene Brumby's offense. And now it's Joel Larson that's able to get into the red zone here with Snapping Gnarlid and Ghostly Sentinel.
And Joel Larson's got up to 6 mana here. Fairly shortly, we're going to start to see some of his power cards coming along. We can see that his hand is entirely devoid of color. Titan's Presence and Bane of Balaged. Obviously, without the Bane of Balaged, Titan's Presence wouldn't do a whole lot. And next turn, the Bane will come down. So there's a fairly strong incentive for him to use this Titan's Presence fairly soon.
Yep.
So Joel Larson had the option of using Titan's Presence on one of those 2 Core Blade Whirls that was blocking, but decides they're not really a big threat here thanks to his Ghostly Sentinel, and will save the Titan's Presence probably for the end of Gene Brumby's turn on whatever happens to be Gene Brumby's largest threat.
It looks like more threats are coming here from the Brumby train that just keeps on rolling. We can see there the New Zealand national champ, Jason Chung, just providing a little bit of extra feedback. I spoke to Jason before the tournament, and he said that this team has been able to get a lot of testing time in together. One of his best friends is also on the team, which makes life a little bit easier in some respects, but apparently in other respects it means that there's a lot of temptation to just sort of hang out and have a good time and maybe not play as much Magic as you should do.
So there's Shadow Glider for Gene Brumby, and he passes the turn at the end step. Joel Larson does decide to use that Titan's Presence on the Courier Griffin. which allows the Ghostly Sentinel to continue attacking. Otherwise, a double block would restrict that option there. So now we'll see Joel Larson get in for 3 with the Ghostly Sentinel and probably follow up with a post-combat Bane of Balaged.
Yeah, now he's shown the Bane of Balaged, it makes sense to actually get it out there and have it causing all sorts of trouble. This the only creature in the set that has anything close to an Annihilator.
Yeah, sort of Exilator too, if you will.
Yeah, in some respects a little better than Annihilator.
Yeah.
One of the more powerful abilities, of course, from the Eldrazi back in Rise of the Eldrazi.
So Gene Brumby with a couple defensive, actually several defensive options here. Gideon's Reproach, Sheer Drop, and Royal's Retribution. So we will probably see him pass the turn with 5 mana up, leaving the option for Royal's Retribution. We'll see if that deters Joel Larson's attack at all, or if he just decides to get in there. Now, Sheer Drop can potentially answer the Bane of Balaged, but not before it's attacked once, and cause Gene Brumby to exile 2 cards, which, even though he seems to have some spare lands at this point, still hurts a lot coming off of a mulligan to 6.
Yeah, and that presumably part of the reason that there's not lots of cards with Annihilator in this set. You wouldn't necessarily want lots of those board states where it just feels impossible to come back when you're developing something like this, right, Ian?
That's right, and Shadow Glider does come in. It's blocked by the 3/3 Shadow Glider. Royal's Retribution here, the play. Not at its most efficient, just taking out the Ghostly Sentinel, but I think what's going on there is Gene Brumby wants to use his mana before the Bane of Balaged attacks and causes some lands to be exiled. That could have been the last possible turn where he'd have access to Royal's Retribution in terms of the amount of mana he has. And this will allow him then to untap and sheer drop the Bane of Balaged and just hope that Joel Larson doesn't have a follow-up play.
And here does come the Bane of Balaged. We can see their sheer drop. It'll get a chance to destroy target tapped creature. Awaken 3, quite a long way off at this point after all those lands have gone away. But we see smiles on both sides here. They're having a good time, both these teams. And plenty of spectators, as I think we're holding one of our other matches just so we can make sure we bring you as much Magic as possible from this elimination match.
There's Giant Mantis number 2 for Joel Larson and an Evolving Wild. So both players low on resources here. I'm sure we'll see that sheer drop on the Bane of Balaged, but Giant Mantis does hold off the pair of 2/2s that Gene Brumby has, and it's going to come down to top decks from this point.
Now, I think that Gene Brumby may have drawn another sheer drop here, but he's in kind of a tough spot because he's not really in a position where that Giant Mantis is going to start attacking anytime soon, which means it's going to be hard to kill with any of his removal.
However, well, Gene Brumby does have Gideon's Reproach in his hand, so he actually can attack into that Giant Mantis. So it's going to be on Joel Larson to find some other sort of non-land card off the top of his library here.
I mean, I guess that the thing with the white-green deck, at least the type that Joel Larson's doing, which is ramping, it can have some sort of fairly patchy draws, because often it has more mana acceleration, but then a much bigger payoff as well with the big spells. So high variance there. He's drawn himself into a Tajuru Stalwart. As a 3/4, that one's a lethal attacker at some point.
Yeah, and that's actually going to be really, really important here, because otherwise Gene Brumby could attack freely into the Giant Mantis, and if it blocks, he can Gideon's Reproach it. If Joel Larson were to not block with the Giant Mantis and attack with it instead, Gene Brumby can take the 2 damage and then sheer drop it afterwards. Now the equation has changed with this Tajuru Stalwart because it does have 3 power, which means that it can't go unblocked here. And to that end, Gene Brumby does put both of his creatures in front of the Stalwart. I'm sure we'll see Joel Larson probably take out that Shadow Glider. Gene Brumby will drop to 1 life, probably follow up with a sheer drop on the Giant Mantis the next turn, and sort of reset the board state again to both players not having much. I did not see what Joel Larson drew this turn, so it's possible he is a follow-up creature.
Yeah, we'll save that one as a surprise play. We'll play from Gene Brumby's side of the table for a second here.
So Gideon's Reproach is used on Tajuru Stalwart, preserving Gene Brumby's creatures, but is that Royal's Retribution?
I believe so.
Wow, what a strong draw from Joel Larson.
Yeah, it's not something you tend to see quite as much when you're on the offensive as when you're playing defensively, but it works both ways, attacking or blocking creatures.
Okay, and that Giant Mantis will drop Gene Brumby to 1 life. Of course, we know Gene does have sheer drop to take it out, and that leaves both players creatureless. A land off the top for Joel Larson, and back to Gene Brumby. Let's see. He drew a Plains that turn. I didn't see what he picked up the last turn. Looks like a copy of Smite the Monstrous. So he'll be ready for Joel Larson's next big threat, but neither player having any kind of offense right now.
Courier Griffin, a great pickup, though, for Gene Brumby. Every point of life counts when you're on one.
Wow. Oh, and there's Royal Spout, rather, off the top for Joel Larson. That'll be the end of the game.
Yep, both putting the one blocker back onto Gene Brumby's deck, providing a 4/4 awakened creature to attack with. Joel Larson squares things up in that match, 1/1, and we'll get a chance to jump across and see some more Magic from some of our other tables. Let's just see which games are going on. I believe that things went so quickly in game one for Jason Chung that they sort of that's been held a little bit, so we're going to get a chance to jump into their game two just as it is beginning. So on the left of our screen, we've got Anton Johansson kicking things off with a Swamp. Jason Chung, we've not had a chance to see his deck just yet, but anytime that you have two full colors to work with without having to split them, it can be a kind of exciting proposition. And he is, unsurprisingly, based on the other colors we've seen, in green and black. Mist Intruder, the first play for Johansson. So blue being split around the Swedish team quite a bit. Just tiny little splashes of it for Joel Larson, but Philip Sand and Anton Johansson both in blue to some extent. Dominator Drone the follow-up. Just a 2/3 to Drew Stalwart right here, but 2/3, not a terrible sized body, even in the face of Dominator Drone. It at least can secure the trade, which is about as much as most 3-drops can. Obviously, Jason Chung would have loved to have been able to get 3 counts on there, but looking at his deck list, it looks like that's a relatively tall order. He's got 1 island in his basic land slot, and I think there's some Lifespring Druids going on there also, but yeah, by and large, that's going to be a 2/3 for 3, and he secures the trade there.
So I like what Jason Chung has set up here. I do believe he has a copy of Undergrowth Champion in his hand. Sure enough, there it is. And this will allow him to play it and play a land in the same turn as a follow-up. Unfortunately, it is met with Spell Shrivel.
Yeah, there's not very many ways of easily one-for-oneing against Undergrowth Champion when someone's got a land in hand ready to play, but that will do it. Plenty of cards going to the Exile Zone for Jason Chung between the Ingest of Mist Intruder and that Spell Shrivel. Jason Chung on the back foot here and just has to look on as Coastal Discovery draws his opponent Anton Johansson 2 extra cards.
So this is a pretty scary situation for Jason Chung. Oftentimes the blue-black deck can come off to awkward starts or it's not able to start ingesting early on, and then a lot of its cards are sort of much lower in value. But Anton Johansson definitely has gotten the ball rolling as far as his strategy is concerned, and will have ample food, I guess, to feed his processor Eldrazi going forward here. But that is a Brood Butcher from Jason Chung, which threatens to really dominate combat.
Yeah, Brood Butcher, one of the cards that if you're playing green-black, that is kind of where you want to be. It fits very, very neatly into exactly the strategy that Chung is working with. Lumbering Falls getting ingested there, so his blue sources flittering away pretty quickly. And, well, we talked about ingest process. Here it is. Mercstrider, meaning that there's very little for Brood Butcher to be butchering right now. Largely redundant. It's just a 3/3, but I'm sure there'll be more creatures coming from Jason Chung soon enough. So Chung does have a Painful Truths in hand, and it must have been extra painful for him to see the blue sources all end up in either his graveyard or his exiled zone, because that does mean that he's going to be able to cast it for 2 cards rather than the full 3. Zilliport Cutthroat coming down here, and that actually a card that Jason Chung said he's played in every single format so far this World Magic Cup.
That's
It's
awesome.
been in both of his limited decks, and I believe that means he's probably playing some kind of a rally deck in Constructed. Typically the place that you see Zilliport Cutthroat once it comes to 60-card decks.
So Jason Chung here looking a little bit low on action. Only has the Brood Butcher coming in for 3 here. Anton Johansson, on the other hand, stuck on mana, but with a very powerful hand. You can see he's got A couple of removal spells in Ruinous Path and Grip of Desolation. A Sire of Stagnation is a powerful creature that can eventually come down, and a couple of other creatures as well, but no super powerful play for him this turn, unfortunately. I guess he could Halimar Tidecaller and get back the Coastal Discovery, but still doesn't add a lot of pressure to his board.
I don't know. I mean, if you're in a situation of where you'd rather be a little short on lands, but with something going on, or too many lands and hoping to draw spells, I'd rather be in the Swedes' position here.
Certainly, yeah, definitely agree with that, Tim.
Oh, it sounds like we've got another score update here. We're going to game 3 over between the match between Philip Sand and Danny Lau. So as much as it seemed like New Zealand had the run of things at the start, do not write off Sweden. 2 matches now going to game 3. This one, currently Jason Chung 1 game up, but Anton Johansson has a lot of powerful cards going on in this game. Even though there's a painful truth happening here for Jason Chung, there is plenty more magic in this match.
Yeah, I'm sure Chung would have much rather held on to that painful truths and gotten the full 3 cards out of it, but with nothing else really to do at present, he decides it's time to go for it. And we'll see what he gets off of that.
I mean, when you've seen your opponent cast Coastal Discovery, you need to redress the balance to some extent, right?
Yeah, I think in an ideal world, Jason Chung is looking for something like an Eyeless Watcher, just to provide a bunch of food for the Bone Splinters' hand and the Brood Butcher that he has on the battlefield.
So another swing for 3 here from Jason Chung.
Looks like Chung picked up Call the Scions.
Call the Scions, a nice solid addition. It's not necessarily the most efficient of all of the Sown producers, but it absolutely does what it says on the tin, gets you where you need to be, and he's sort of carefully weighing up his options here post-combat.
And taking a look at Chung's hand, looks like he's got a Skyrider Elf, which, similar to the Painful Truths, is stuck because of him not finding his 3rd color just yet. And Call the Scions joins the battlefield here. There is option to Bone Splinters there, but nothing quite worth a card and sacrificing a Scion for.
The Skyrider Elf might be truly stranded, because unlike Painful Truths, which simply would prefer to have a little bit of extra colored mana, I believe that all of the blue sources in Jason Chung's deck are no longer in his deck. They're either in his graveyard or in his
oh, is that so?
zone.
That's very, very interesting.
He does have 1 copy of Canopy Vista, presumably just for additional Converge. That's not going to help him, though, when it comes to finding the blue mana in the mana cost of Skyrider Elf. And more ingestion happening here from that Mist Intruder, which it's hard for Anton Johansson to know quite how much good stuff it's actually done in terms of making Jason Chung's mana draw a little bit shaky. But he can certainly tell about all of the ingest, and he's just checking out there, sees a Swarm Surge that he's taken away. That would have also been a great draw for Jason Chung.
So now finally that Brood Butcher could use a sign to take out the Mist Intruder if need be. But first here's Blister Pod, an even better thing to sacrifice. I think we'll see Jason Chung probably kill the Mist Intruder at some point in this turn sequence, but save the Bone Splinters for something a little bit bigger, perhaps that Sire of Stagnation when it finally comes out. So Blister Pod gives -2/-2 to the Halimar Tidecaller, letting the Eldrazi sign finish it off. Blister Pod giving Jason Chung yet another sign on his side of the battlefield. And this Brood Butcher looking poised to really, really take over the game here. We'll see if Anton Johansson can find a 6th land which would allow Grip of Desolation, or perhaps he'll just decide to Ruinous Path the Brood Butcher before it gets totally out of hand. And there's a 6th land indeed.
Yeah, wisely choosing to attack here before doing anything else. I mean, if he can set up a situation where Brood Butcher gets used prematurely, that would obviously be the ideal.
So the choice here for Anton Johansson is Grip of Desolation versus Ruinous Path versus Sire of Stagnation. It looks like he goes for Ruinous Path on the Brood Butcher, sacrifices itself to take out the Mist Intruder, just double checking that it can indeed do that. I believe it can. And the follow-up being a Benthic Infiltrator. So at this point, this is anyone's game. I mean, Anton Johansson finally found the land to unlock the huge number of cards in his hand, including that Sire of Stagnation threatening to come down pretty soon. But we do know that Jason Chung has a Bone Splinters ready to take out whatever the first biggest threat is.
But Johansson now down to just 9 life. We've already seen one Swarm Surge get exiled for Jason Chung's deck. If there's another copy in there, though, it could be quite the problem for Anton Johansson at this point in the game.
Looks like Blighted Fen takes out Benthic Infiltrator. That allowed the 3 Scions to get in, keep chipping away at Anton Johansson's life total. I like that use of Blighted Fen. I mean, you know you're not going to be killing that Benthic Infiltrator anytime soon, so it's always going to be there to have the option to be sacrificed to Blighted Fen, so you might as well take it out sooner rather than later. There's also a Catacomb Sifter in Jason Chung's hand. I think he's debating whether he wants to sacrifice a Scion to play it or not. I like just waiting and getting the maximum value out of that card. I think you're not in any particular rush, and being so low on resources, you just want to get the maximum out of every card that you can.
I mean, also, you're currently presenting a 2-turn clock. Casting the Catacomb Sifter doesn't do a great deal to change that, so you don't necessarily need to put more threats on the board and potentially overextend.
Yeah, I think Jason Chung's plan is just to go wide and just keep making Scions and more bodies, and eventually, if need be, just start attacking in and losing some creatures along the way, but getting in that chip damage that'll eventually finish off the game.
So Sire of Stagnation, a colossal threat. There's not really a great deal of reason for Jason Chung to play a huge amount of extra lands here, but it's still a 5/7 body. And this may be enough to prompt a Bone Splinters, methinks.
Catacomb Sifter coming down first so that Jason Chung gets the Scry. At this point, any land he is to draw would be a blank, basically. So happily putting something to the bottom there, probably a land, and getting in for 3 damage. And this could be coming up on the last turn cycle here, unless Anton Johansson can put together something really strong against this swarm of Scions.
Yeah, it seems like Anton Johansson's removal suite hasn't necessarily matched up particularly well against this green-black deck. He's got lots of good one-for-one plays, but unfortunately when your opponent is making 2-3 creatures per card, that can get a little bit out of hand. 2 different types of card advantage. So it looks like Sludge Crawler the pickup there for Johansson. Not exactly what he was looking for. And Ilmorg's Reclaimer comes along. There's plenty of cards ingested that can get processed. Ruinous Path coming back.
So Jason Chung just short 1 point of damage here if everything attacks. See what the top of his deck has for him.
Everybody's coming in. And it seems like Jason Chung quite happy to say, let's get busy living and get busy dying. Hagra Sharpshooter, the longer it hangs around, the longer those 1/1s don't look too exciting. Anton Johansson now on 1, and with an Eyeless Watcher.
Oh, wow. Eyeless Watcher, huge there. That makes that attack make a lot of sense.
We have 6 lethal creatures on the board. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I was starting to get a bit nervous for Jason Chung before we saw that Eyeless Watcher hit the battlefield. But that definitely makes that attack make a whole lot of sense, and Anton Johansson's going to be very hard-pressed to answer this swarm of Eldrazi coming after him here.
And Jason Chung, hungry to get this match out of the way, hungry for a spot of lunch, hungry for Oath of the Gatewatch previews over lunch. He just wants to finish this one off and get New Zealand through to the constructed rounds. Just a little conversation there. The New Zealand team well aware of the fact that if the Swedes overhear them talking, they're going to understand everything they're saying. So trying to be careful, hushed tones, and sort of covering up their mouths, looking away while talking to each other, so there's no lip reading going on there. They want to make sure that any help that's being given by spectators is actually helping them and not their opponents. Just trying to figure out if there's anything that could make this all go horribly awry. Horribly awry, ironically, would not make this go horribly awry.
So Jason Chung almost certain to just attack with all of his creatures here, but he's just thinking through all the possibilities. What can 7 untapped blue and black sources possibly represent?
A Royal Mage's Trick. It would be a stretch.
That would be an unusual card to see post-board in this matchup, but it's possible. Is one of the few cards in the format that can really do much here, other than like a combination of several cards all at once.
Well, I mean, if in doubt.
Here's to Giroux Beastmaster, is that right?
That's correct. So this team, it was lethal before. It's still lethal. And there's the handshake. So Jason Chung picking up the first match for Team New Zealand. They now need just one more match to be able to advance through this pretty tough group. It was actually very, very close between these two teams in terms of their seeding going in. They were basically 1 point different on the seedings, and that was enough for one of them to be the top half of the bracket, one to be the bottom half, and very, very close for them, and they will be happy to now be a little bit ahead in this matchup. So we're going to get a chance to see a little bit more of Philip Sand and Danny Lau now. Philip Sand of Sweden on the left of our screen. We can see there he's already got Vile Aggregate, one of the most powerful cards in the red-blue archetype, alongside Nettle Drone, and Merc Strider and Mist Intruder for Danny Lau on the other side of things. Vile Aggregate has just got so many good things going for it in a nice cheap package. Currently a 2-5 Trampler, but there's every chance to believe that that will increase as this game goes on.
So as the players debating their play here in this close game, this match tied 1-1, we do want to remind you folks at home that we do have an Oath of the Gatewatch preview segment coming up here over lunch just after this match, so stay tuned for that.
I'm certainly excited about that. I know that obviously working inside R&D, you know all about these cards already, but none of the rest of us do. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's still exciting for me, Tim. I mean, I did the lead development of this set, so it's really awesome to see those cards finally being viewed by the outside world and looking at player reactions and things like that. So it's awesome for me as well.
Nice little play here. Danny Lau able to remove the Vile Aggregate from the board and get a hit in here. Nettle Drone, while it does trade with quite a lot of things, equally it is always going to die in a fight as well. Just the 1 point of toughness there. So a little bit of a choice here for Philip Sand as to whether or not he wants to trade off here or save it for something better. Nettle, apparently the keyword for things that untap at unusual times. Untapping whenever you play a colorless spell, and we can see that there's plenty of colorless spells in this matchup. Lau has 2 Benthic Infiltrators, Ruination Guide, and Sure Strike in his hand. Ruination Guide sure to be a great card in this matchup. And Philip Sand, I'm sure similar can be said for him in terms of the colorless count. Yeah, we see Kozilek's Channeler, a Sure Strike there, and 2 copies of Adverse Condition. So if he can develop some kind of a board here, he can just put all of Danny Lau's creatures on lock and just keep on attacking.
Yeah, as things stand, it looks like Danny Lau has the upper hand in this matchup here. He's on the offense already. He'll be able to play probably a Benthic Infiltrator or Ruination Guide in his second main phase here. And Philip Sand has, you know, a nice hand, but it's not a hand that's great when you're behind on the board. You'd rather have cards like Sure Strike and Adverse Conditions when you are in command of the battlefield and making the attacks yourself.
I mean, I guess if he gets a land this turn and gets to cast Kozilek's Channeler, then he's actually got a credible blocker for Merc Strider. Things start to look a little bit better for him. But he really wants to have a couple of good creatures in play.
Yeah, I agree with that from Philip Sand's point of view. However, we do know that Danny Lau has a copy of Sure Strike in his hand, so he'll be able to keep on attacking there.
Sure Strikes all round here in this matchup. And a Stone Fury, the draw for Sand, mocking him as he sits there with 4 lands in play.
Yeah, certainly not what he wanted to see there. Second Nettle Drone.
Now these nettle drones, when they come in multiples, they can be comparatively scary.
Yeah, there's a way this game could play out where Philipp Sand just goes back-to-back adverse conditions, locking things down, getting lots of triggers with the nettle drones, and just kind of pinging away and ending the game that way. Although it looks like we're still getting hands updated as we transition over this match. It looks like there was only one copy of adverse conditions in Philipp Sand's hand, and the other one was actually the nettle drone that he just played there instead.
Ah, okay. Big swings here from Danny Lau, and not necessarily big swings that are going to be easy for Philipp Sand to deal with. He's going to have to throw one of those nettle drones in the way. So a little goodbye tap from that nettle drone as it's on its way out, blocking there.
So Philipp Sand taking a chunk of damage here. I think what he's really looking for is just that 5th land off the top, hoping to play Kozilek's Channeler, hoping it sticks. And that shores up the ground for him, and then he can proceed onward to kind of put together his own game plan. Second copy of Benthic Infiltrator. It's interesting, both these decks kind of presenting unblockable 1 point of damage here at a time. So it's really going to come down to who can I guess, get the ground combat here, get in larger chunks of damage.
And Herald with Kozilek, I believe, the draw there for Philipp Sand. So in a way, that means that it unlocks some of his more expensive spells, and in some respects lets him cast more spells a turn, even better than a land. This turn, though, it's a 2/4 blocker. Unfortunately for him, it's a 2/4 blocker for a bunch of creatures that it can't really block. We see these gold cards all the way through Battle for Zendikar, pushed a little bit in power and give you a real indication of what the color combinations are looking to do. Red and blue loves casting its colorless spells.
Yeah, it's looking to me like Philipp Sand might just be too far behind in this game to claw his way back in, especially with that Sure Strike lurking in Danny Lau's hand.
And Team Sweden looking surprisingly chipper considering the situation they find themselves in. Of course, with the win already for Jason Chung over Anton Johansson, all that New Zealand needs to do is win one more match and they can get there.
And this is an elimination match for both teams, so whoever does not win this match will not proceed on to stage 2, the second pool of day 2 competition.
Well, Nettle Drone's tapping, which suggests to me that there's a colorless spell coming. There's adverse conditions.
I want to respond to the trigger.
It looks like there might be a response to this trigger.
Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, chopping or just chopping.
Yeah, I responded to it.
Okay, so before the Nettle Drone can untap again, it's just being offed there. So now, where previously there was a Nettle Drone, there is simply an Eldrazi Scion.
Vi är på 9 just nu. Ja, då ska vi ta 5, 4. 5, 4, han har inte landat kvar. Ställa den där. Nästa tur då så kör vi typ den bra hopp. Ja, oavsett så kommer vi kunna stoppa det.
The Swedes carefully mapping out how they see the next turn or two going. I think if they map it out more than a couple of turns, they'll be simply mapping out to the end of the game by the looks of things based on the board at present.
So it looks like the sign gets in front of that Ruination Guide there. Mist Intruder getting in for 2, ingesting. There is a land off the top for Philipp Sand. And those Benthic Infiltrators will successfully be locked down for one more turn here, so we'll see what Philipp Sand decides to go with. I think the options are Stone Furying the Ruination Guide, or simply just playing Kozilek's Channeler and hoping to hold the ground. Either way, a really, really tough spot for Philipp Sand. Projecting forward a couple turns, even if he can stabilize and stay alive for 1 or 2 more turns, he's still in pretty deep trouble. He's going to need to string together a couple things in a row to get back into this game.
Yeah, Benthic Infiltrator kind of represents real inevitability for this red-blue deck. Absolutely unblockable. Even if you're able to deal with all of the other threats on the board, it's got 4 toughness. It might take a while to kill people because it's only hitting for 1 point a turn. But those 1 points add up, and with Philipp Sand on just 7, you won't need too many turns to close this one out. So Kozilek's Channel at the play, and now we see some slightly nervous-looking Swedes pass back and wait to see what's coming from the conspiring New Zealand team. Phoenix Taku there. He's been sitting out these rounds and is desperately hoping he gets a chance to actually tap lands and play spells next round. And a sure strike on Ruination Guide, meaning that the block from Kozilek's Channeler not good enough. Philip Sand gets knocked down to 5 here. And Into the Void is the card that gets ingested.
It looks like just too many threats for Philip Sand to deal with here. Even if he can take out the Ruination Guide, he's still facing down 3 damage from the 2 Benthic Infiltrators and the Mist Intruder. And with all 3 of those creatures having evasion, I mean, he would need to answer them all in a hurry. So I don't think there's too much he can do here, Tim.
Yeah, nervous conversations from Team Sweden. Stone Fury, clearly a powerful removal spell, but not a powerful enough removal spell. Even a Rolling Thunder here, there's a lot of toughness on Danny Lau's side of the board, would not be good enough. The New Zealand team just carefully figuring out for themselves what might need to happen here. Planning their big finish on camera.
I'm just an idiot.
All right, so there's another Herald of Kozilek. Kozilek, of course, took a wild shot to the party. He got heralded in Battle for Zendikar. We're going to see him in Oath of the Gatewatch, and we'll, of course, see more Oath of the Gatewatch previews right after this match in our lunch break. And there's the handshake. New Zealand does it. A win there for Danny Lau, the 2nd win required for Team New Zealand. That means that they will be playing in the constructed rounds after our lunch break. 3 more rounds left today as our 32 have become 16 going into constructed, and our 16 will ultimately become 8 playing in the top 8 on Sunday. Congratulations to New Zealand, commiserations to Sweden. But what a set of matches they're in, Duke.
Yeah, awesome games for sure.
I mean, to me, I think that the most interesting thing was the New Zealand white deck.
Yeah.
As soon as you have a mono white deck, it means that the other colors, it's a straightforward, right, you can have 2 colors, you can have 2 colors,
it's a pretty
we're going to have a
interesting
good
way
time.
they split, you know, mono white and then blue red and then black green just worked out perfectly. So they were able to maximize the true strength of all of their colors, you know, without dividing up the power of their cards.
Not something that you can do every time, but certainly worth looking out for, because if you can do it, you know, your one deck will be pretty good, your other 2 decks could be spectacular, and they were both good enough that ultimately New Zealand able to go through. Commiserations, of course, to Sweden there. There will be an awful lot of players that either have managed to lock up their spot in day 2, in the second half of day 2, or are perhaps sort of wondering if they're just going to have a really long lunch now because they haven't got any more Magic to play. We're going to send things over across to the news desk because our round is finished here now. There's just a couple of minutes left on the main round, and then we'll be able to bring you some Oath of the Gatewatch previews over lunch.
Standard all the way after lunch. We've got a big lunchtime show for you. We've got all the results, all the standings. Gavin Verhey will be here in just a few minutes to talk to us about a brand new card coming in Oath of the Gatewatch. This is the OGW kickoff weekend here at the World Magic Cup. So we're going to be excited to bring you that and more cards coming tomorrow as well with Ian Duke. So plenty to look forward to there. We'll take a look inside the world of Team Unified Standard with Frank Karsten, Brian David Marshall and Randy Buehler. They'll be with you crunching all the numbers from yesterday and trying to work out what the top decks are going to be here down the stretch as the top 16 play for the top 8. And of course, during lunch, we will reveal the 16 teams in their seeding order. Where will the pools fall? What big teams will be on a collision course in the last 3 rounds here on day 2. So let's find out who's going to be in that top 16. Let's get to the board and we'll start with Group A. So here's where we are. Belarus last round drew with New Zealand, but they win this round. Belarus comfortably through, undefeated. 2 wins, no losses, and a draw. Chile down the bottom at 0-3. Sweden at 1-1, New Zealand 1-0-1, but we've just seen New Zealand win that one, so we know that Belarus and New Zealand are through from Pool A. So great job by Belarus. They were the overall top seed, and they just kept on winning. Can anyone stop them? They start again at 0-0 in the next pool play, but my guess is they will again, of course, be a top seed. And seeding matters. Let's see why. Let's look at Pool B. So here you have a 3-0 Team Scotland. When they heard that they had to play Macedonia in round 3, they said, it's no problem, our decks are great, we'll win anyway. They have. And you know what they say? Scottish when they lose, British when they win. So well done, Scotland. 3-0. Denmark advances because they're 2-1. They won their match against Iceland. That was that essential for Denmark. And that means with Scotland's win over Macedonia, it's a straight 3-win, 2-win, 1-win, no wins pool. Macedonia came in the overall number 2 seed, but they are done. Tremendous run even so. Great job by them. But it is 4-3, Scotland and Denmark, who advance from Pool B. Let's take a look at Pool C for you then. Brazil, now real drama here. Brazil played Argentina in the last round. They had to win. That was the first thing. They did. Brazil beat Argentina to get up to 1 win. But at that point, Thailand and Guatemala knew that Brazil had won, and they looked at each other and said, you know what? We don't need to play magic anymore. If we just draw here, that gets us to 2 wins and a draw, 1 win and a draw, and that puts us above Brazil. So even though Brazil did their part and beat their arch rivals Argentina, it was not enough. Paulo Vida Dama da Rosa, Lucas Escobar too, and the rest of the Brazilian team are done and out the door in the last 32 stage of pool play here at the WMC. Let's take you to Pool D then. Now, this is new, just coming in. So here we have Greece at 2-1. They are through. They have beaten Germany. Christian Seibold, they were the top seed in the group, but the Greeks have won. History repeating itself from last year. Greece was 31 coming in last year, 29 this year. They've done it again, 4th seed. They're going to make it through. And then you see Japan and Mexico 1-1-1, and that puts Japan through and Mexico out by virtue of seeding. Japan with Kenji Samura, Yuya Watanabe, Ryoichi Tamada, and Yo-Yo Su, they are through into the top 16. Germany gone, Mexico gone, Greece through. What a fantastic story for Bill Chronopoulos. Can he go one better than last year? Let's take you to Pool E and see what's going on there. Well, this was one where seeding mattered, my goodness me. Singapore played Serbia, Chinese Taipei played Austria. When Serbia won to get to 2-1, that was going to put them through regardless. And then Austria and Chinese Taipei won their first 2 rounds. Home for all money, but like Scotland, bottom seed, they had to play the top seed in the last round, and Austria won that match, dropped Chinese Taipei to 2-1, and that means with 3 2-1s, it is Austria and Serbia that advance, and that means there will not be a repeat champion from 2012 because Chinese Taipei, Huang Haoshan, and the rest of the team from Chinese Taipei are gone in the last 32 stage. All right, Pool F is up next. We knew that France were already through. Then it was just a case of what could the Philippines do against the French in the exclusively red, white and blue group. Philippines beat France, got to 2-1, joined them there, and then if Poland won over the Netherlands, they'd have been through. It was in their own hands for the Poles, but the Netherlands, Jelger Wiegersma, Thomas Hendricks, that team won a round, didn't have the 0-3, and as a result, it is Philippines that join France in the final 16 of the World Magic Cup. 2 more pools to bring you. Let's take a look at Pool G. And in Pool G, well, this is a startling story. Paraguay, the top seed, began loss. They were 0-2. They were in the Brazil situation. 0-2 after 2 rounds, but a top seed and still a chance. They had to have everything fall their way. They needed a favor from Italy. Italy had to get to 3-0. They did. That fell Turkey to 1-2. Paraguay owned the tiebreak over Turkey. Paraguay still had to beat Australia. They did. Now there's 3 1-2s. The top seed advances. Seeding matters. Paraguay, having started the morning with a horrible pool and 2 horrible losses, they win when it matters, and they are through to the top 16 alongside Italy, who swept the board, and boy is that team starting to cook. See them in the top 16 later on. Paraguay and Italy advance from G, which leaves just Pool H. Let's take a look there. And you have Ukraine. We already knew that they were going to be through. We already knew that Malta were out at 1 and 2, but hats off to Malta. They won their last round against Ukraine, so Malta don't go home with just 0 wins in pool play. They have a win there and a brilliant first World Magic Cup for them. Tremendous to make day 2 as the 73rd country into the World Magic Cup. That was therefore a straight knockout between Hong Kong and Latvia, and what we saw there in the end, would it be Li Shichan of Hong Kong, would it be Andre Prost and Latvia? It's the Latvians who advance with Ukraine. Hong Kong, another big name, out by the wayside. So that is the state of pool play. At the end of lunchtime, we'll rejig all the 16, and their overall records will form the basis of the next set of 4 pools of 4 teams as we head into Team Unified Standard. But right now, we're going to turn our attention away from Barcelona and go to a much wider world, a wider multiverse, if you will, because it's our Oath of the Gatewatch kickoff weekend, and it's time for us to talk all about Oath of the Gatewatch.